Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver Davante Adams getting traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers is a real possibility, as multiple insiders have come out and said that the Pittsburgh Steelers are in trade discussions for Davante Adams. So let's get into those insiders. Diana Rossini of Athletic says the Pittsburgh Steelers are interested in trading for Davante Adams, according to a source. There have been discussions and both sides are keeping an open line of communication. It has also been reported by former ESPN and CBS insider Josina Anderson that the Pittsburgh Steelers have interest in discussing a potential trade for Raiders wide receiver Davante Adams. Also, yesterday, it was reported that actually the Raiders started calling around the league, calling teams to kind of gauge the interest and see which teams would be up for trading for wide receiver Davante Adams. And apparently, one of the teams that the Raiders called was the Pittsburgh Steelers to kind of see if they would be interested. And they are interested per multiple insiders. Also, another report came out that Davante Adams' main teams that he wants to get traded to are the New York Jets and the New Orleans Saints because of the connections to Aaron Rodgers and the connections to his best friend in the league, Derek Carr. But in reality, he does not get to decide where he ends up. He does not have to sign with a team for a contract extension. He does not have a no trade clause. He is not in the final year of his contract. He still has major years left. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, either way, if Davante Adams wants to go there or not, they are interested in trading for him. So, before I get more into this and all the other reports, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also, like this video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers, it seems as like they've been searching for a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 to play alongside George Pickens all offseason. They were trying to trade for Brandon Ayuk. They were in discussions and in the rumors for Cameron Sutton, all the other big name receivers that became available, free agents. They were just in discussions all offseason with wide receiver, but primarily with Brandon Ayuk, who just got $30 million from the 49ers. So they're not afraid to go out and try trading for a wide receiver that's making big time money. And Davante Adams is making big time money. They're not afraid to go out there and try to give up a 3rd round draft pick, or 2nd round draft pick, whatever it takes to get a big name wide receiver. It was actually reported many times that the trade was actually done and that the 49ers, on the day they signed Brandon Ayuk, was prepared to send him to the Steelers. They told him, hey, either choose us or we're sending you. This is the final day to make your decision. And then he made a decision to return to the 49ers and sign that contract. So it seems like the Pittsburgh Steelers are interested in trading for a wide receiver just from the past experience and the past things that went on in the offseason. And why wouldn't they want Davante Adams at this point? Having another wide receiver, having another weapon for George Pickens could really be a solid thing for this team, and someone who creates a separation as much as Davante Adams, that could be huge. So is the Pittsburgh Steelers interested? From my opinion, yes. They were interested in other players. Why wouldn't they be interested in Davante Adams for the right price? But that's huge, for the right price. They're not going to overpay, I believe, for someone who's in their 30s. When you look at the players the Pittsburgh Steelers have traded for in the past, they usually, when they give up high 1st round or 2nd round, 3rd round draft picks, it's usually for a younger player. For example, Minkah Fitzpatrick. And when they're trying to trade for people who they know will take high end draft picks, it's usually for younger players like Brandon Ayuk. But when you look at Davante Adams and how old he is, he's in his 30s. That means that he doesn't have that many years left. He's 31. So how much more years does he really have at a high level? He probably will be at a high level for the rest of his contract, but usually the Pittsburgh Steelers would want him not just for this contract, but for far beyond it as well. That's why they go out and try training for younger players. So Davante Adams to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I said for the right price. In my opinion, what is the right price for Davante Adams? It would be a 3rd round draft pick. Me personally, a 2nd round draft pick, I don't think that he's worth that right now in terms of his age and everything like that. From a talent standpoint, if you want him for this season and for the next 4 years, yes, sure, you could give up that if you think you're going to win a Super Bowl right away. And that would be the key indicator for the Steelers. If you believe that he's a needle pusher, If he's the person who's going to get you over the edge and help you win the Super Bowl, you give up that draft pick, the second first-round draft pick. But if you don't, and I believe third or anything else is more reasonable for Davante Adams. And I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers don't really need him in terms of the way they play, their scheme on offense. That's why I believe giving up that third-round draft pick would be the most I would give up, because the Steelers don't really use wide receivers like that. For example, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, they had one target, one reception in their last game or something like that. And the only person who really gets targeted is the main wide receiver, the main tight end, Pat Freiermuth, George Pickens. The Steelers really just run the ball. That's their thing. Justin Fields runs the ball. He looks to throw sometimes. Most of the times, he hits the main guy, the main tight end, the main target, but he doesn't really go out looking for the secondary third person, for the wide receiver, fourth option. He just goes out and looks for the main first two options, which is the wide receiver and tight end. So it's not like the Pittsburgh Steelers go out and scheme it, where they get everyone involved. No, it's just the main guys that are involved, and that's been the Arthur Smith offense for many years, wherever he's been. Tennessee, Atlanta, it's always been the main guy gets the ball, and everyone else, their numbers aren't really as good. So that's really just a scheme. So are they really going to get everyone involved if they trade for Davante Adams, or will it just be a big mess? Also, the Steelers, I just seen something yesterday. They're 10% lower than any other team and expected to throw the ball. That means that they've ran the ball 10% more than any other team, and they're above average. So if they're a running team and run the ball more than any other team basically, then why would you go out and get a wide receiver if you plan on running the ball? The Pittsburgh Steelers, in like the first 2 weeks, they ran the ball like 40 times, including the running backs per game, like 40 times, with their running backs getting like 30, and then their quarterback getting 15. So it's been a high number running the ball compared to throwing the ball. Last week was really the only week that you really seen them throw the ball a lot, and that was because they're behind in the games. And Justin Fields looked good throwing the ball, but it was still to the main guys. It wasn't to the secondary options. So in my eyes, I believe giving up a first round or second round draft pick for someone who you're barely going to utilize because of the scheme of your offense just doesn't make sense. And that's what I was saying for Brandon Ayuk. It was the exact same thing. In the way that he fits this team and the way the Pittsburgh Steelers want to play, it didn't make sense giving up a first round draft pick, a second round draft pick for Brandon Ayuk. And you have to remember, Davante Adams requested a trade, and that brings your value down. Because when you request a trade, that means the player wants out. He's not happy with your team. Now teams know that he wants gone, and he doesn't want to play for you anymore. So why would you give up such a high-end draft pick for someone who doesn't even want to be there anymore? That's bringing the locker room down. That's bringing the team down. The head coach liked to post on social media, basically saying to get him out of there. So that's obviously going to bring some discommunication to the team, and it would take less draft picks, I believe, now than it would if the Raiders just traded Davante Adams if he didn't request a trade. So are the Pittsburgh Steelers interested? Yes. Does it make sense? Yes. But do they need to do it? No, based off a scheme aspect. On the other hand, I would want to see more weapons for Justin Fields, just to see if it helps him blossom even more than he's already blossomed the last 4 weeks. So from that aspect, I would want to see them trade it, but I would not want to sacrifice getting someone high in the draft who could be here for a decade plus just to get a wide receiver. Who are we really going to be Super Bowl contenders after? Probably not. Who knows? But that's all I have for Davante Adams, all the reports, everything like that, my opinions. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on Davante Adams. Do you want him as a Pittsburgh Steeler? Do you want the Steelers to go out and trade for him? Do you not? And if you do, what draft picks would you be willing to give up? What's the most you would be willing to give up for Davante Adams? What is he worth? You have to remember he's going to be making $35 million per year as well for like the next 4 years or something like that. Now, let's move over to the second topic of this video. It's going to be a shorter topic, but it's just really going over the injuries for the Pittsburgh Steelers from last week's game. James Daniels has a torn Achilles, and he is now out for season. So that's a big loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cordell Patterson has an ankle injury. He should be fine. Jalen Warren, he still has that knee injury that he's dealing with, but the main one is obviously James Daniels. Isaac Seumalo, however, is expected to return this week from pec injury, so they lose one guard, but they will get Isaac Seumalo back here shortly. But James Daniels, like I said, is a big loss. He's like a stable guy for the Steelers, someone who brought the team together and held them together whenever the moving pieces came in for the Steelers. Whenever they brought in new pieces, James Daniels was always the guy who was healthy, able to hold things together. And now in a contract year, he's up after the season and needs a new contract. So this is devastating for him. He probably still will get a big contract, but this just hurts him because he was in a contract year and now it's a major injury. So the Pittsburgh Steelers lose someone who's a focal point of the offensive line. Their offensive line has already struggled this season, pass blocking, run blocking, and now they lose a big and major part and component of that, and someone who is a bright spot in James Daniels. He's still really young, like 26, 27 years old. So he will bounce back from this. It's a huge loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and now they have to move a different direction. And it'll be interesting to see if Isaac Seumalo stays at left guard or if he plays his natural position at right guard, which he played with the Eagles, because Mason McCormick has only played left guard in college, only playing like 15 snaps at right guard. So will they keep the rookie at left guard at his natural position? And will they move Isaac Seumalo back to his natural position? Or will they keep Isaac Seumalo here at left guard and move Mason McCormick to right guard? Because Isaac Seumalo did play left guard before he got injured. So this will be interesting to see what they do. And will there be a kind of a rotation with Spencer Anderson at whichever position they decide to keep open? Anyway, that's the update for the injuries for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about that as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn notifications before you leave this video. And also, I cover everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis, reports. This is the best spot for Pittsburgh Steelers news. So stay tuned to this channel, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all later. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.